The night was quiet at the Coastal Research Station in Busan. Kang Tae-ho sat alone in his small laboratory, watching data scroll across his computer screen. He was studying the migration patterns of deep-sea fish, a job that most people found boring. But Tae-ho liked the silence. He liked being alone with his thoughts and his work. Outside, the waves crashed against the rocks. The clock on the wall showed 2 in the morning. Tae-ho rubbed his tired eyes and reached for his cold coffee. He should go home and sleep, but something kept him working. He had always been like this. Quiet, patient, focused on things others ignored. Then the lights went out. Tae-ho stood up slowly. Power failures happened sometimes during storms, but tonight the sky was clear. He walked to the window and looked outside. What he saw made his heart stop. A massive ship hung in the sky above the ocean. It was bigger than anything he had ever seen. Lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that hurt his eyes. The ship made no sound, but Tae-ho could feel it. A deep vibration in his chest, like standing too close to a giant speaker. Before he could move, a beam of light shot down from the ship. It hit the research station. Tae-ho felt his body go numb. He tried to run, but his legs would not obey. The last thing he saw was the ceiling dissolving into white light. When Tae-ho woke up, he was lying on a cold metal floor. His head hurt. His mouth was dry. He pushed himself up slowly and looked around. He was in a large room with walls that seemed to glow from within. Dozens of other people lay around him, some still unconscious, others crying or shouting in fear. A woman next to him was speaking rapidly in Japanese. A man nearby was praying in Arabic. Tae-ho realized they had been taken from different places, different countries. All of them were confused and afraid. Tall figures entered the room. They were not human. The beings stood over 2 meters tall. Their skin was pale silver, almost metallic. They had faces that looked almost human, but their eyes were too large and completely black. They moved with a grace that seemed unnatural, like water flowing uphill. One of them spoke. The words were strange, but somehow Tae-ho understood them. Later, he would learn that they had put translation devices in everyone's ears while they slept. "You have been selected for evaluation," the being said. Its voice was cold and flat. "Do not resist. Resistance will cause pain." One by one, the humans were taken to smaller rooms. Tae-ho waited his turn. He watched the others go. Some fought. Those ones came back with burns on their skin or did not come back at all. Some cried and begged. The aliens ignored their tears. Tae-ho decided he would do neither. He would watch. He would learn. That was what he was good at. When his turn came, 2 aliens led him down a long corridor. The walls were covered with symbols he could not read. They brought him to a room filled with strange machines. In the center stood a female alien. She was different from the others. Her silver skin had faint blue patterns running across it, like veins of light. She wore dark clothing that looked like armor and cloth combined. Her black eyes studied him with sharp intelligence. "I am Commander Vila of the Norvani Fleet," she said. "You will answer my questions." Tae-ho nodded slowly. "Where am I? Why did you take us?" Vila tilted her head. Most humans screamed or cried at this point. This one asked questions. Interesting. "Your species has been identified as potentially compatible for our genetic continuation program," she said. "Our race is dying. Our children are born weak. Each generation is smaller than the last. We have searched many worlds for species that might help us continue. Humans are one of many candidates." "You want to breed with us," Tae-ho said quietly. A crude way of putting it, but essentially correct. Vila gestured to her scientists. They attached devices to Tae-ho's skin. Scanners moved around his body collecting data. Tae-ho stood still and let them work. There was no point in fighting. Not yet. Then something went wrong. The machines began to make high-pitched sounds. The scientists looked at each other in confusion. One of them ran to a console and began pressing buttons frantically. "What is happening?" Vila demanded. Commander, his genetic readings are unstable, the scientist said. The scanners cannot classify his DNA. It keeps changing. That is impossible. Run the scan again. They did. The same thing happened. The machines could not understand what they were seeing. T-Ho's genetic code was unlike anything in their database. It was not fixed like other species. It was fluid, adaptive, constantly shifting in tiny ways. Vila stepped closer to T-Ho. She looked at him differently now, not like a specimen, like a mystery. "What are you?" she asked. "I am human," T-Ho said. "Just a marine biologist from Busan." "No, you are something more, or something else entirely." She turned to her soldiers. "Send the others back to Earth. This one stays." T-Ho felt his stomach drop. The other humans were being released, but he was trapped. Whatever made him special had just become a curse. They took him to a different room. This one looked almost comfortable. There was a bed, a table, even a window that showed the stars outside. But T-Ho knew a prison when he saw one. He sat on the bed and thought about his situation. He was alone on an alien ship, chosen for a breeding program by creatures who saw humans as little more than animals. Most people would panic. Most people would give up hope. But T-Ho was not most people. He had spent his entire life watching and waiting. As a child, he was always the quiet one who noticed things others missed. In school, he solved problems not by being the smartest, but by being the most patient. He could wait. He could observe. He could find the weak points that others overlooked. The aliens thought they had captured a simple human. They did not know what they had really found. T-Ho did not know either, not yet. But he would figure it out. He would learn their language, their customs, their weaknesses. And when the time was right, he would use that knowledge. He lay down on the alien bed and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Far above him, Commander Vila stood in her private quarters, staring at T-Ho's genetic data on a screen. In 400 years of life, she had never seen anything like it. The human's DNA was like a living thing, constantly adapting and changing. If what she suspected was true, this one human might hold the key to saving her entire species. But there was something in his eyes that troubled her. When she had looked at him, she did not see fear. She saw calculation. She saw patience. Perhaps, she thought, the Norvani were not the only ones doing the hunting here. 3 days passed on the Norvani ship. Each day brought new tests. Each test was designed to break T-Ho. None of them worked. On the first day, they tested his body. They put him in a chamber and slowly changed the air. Normal humans needed specific amounts of oxygen to survive. The Norvani air was different. It contained gases that should have made T-Ho sick. Scientists watched through glass walls, expecting him to collapse. For the first hour, T-Ho felt dizzy. His chest hurt. Breathing felt like swallowing fire, but he did not fall. He sat cross-legged on the floor and forced himself to breathe slowly. In, out, in, out. By the 3rd hour, the pain was fading. By the 6th hour, he was breathing normally. The scientists ran more scans. His lungs had changed. Tiny modifications in his cells allowed him to process the alien air. It should have been impossible. His adaptation rate is beyond anything in our records, one scientist reported to Vila. His body is rewriting itself to survive. On the 2nd day, they tested his mind. They put him in front of a screen and showed him puzzles. These were tests designed for young Norvani, simple logic problems that any alien child could solve. They expected the primitive human to fail. T-Ho solved the first puzzle in 2 minutes. The second took him less than 1. By the 10th puzzle, he was finishing them faster than the machine could load new ones. The scientists increased the difficulty. They gave him problems meant for adults, then problems meant for scholars. T-Ho worked through them patiently, making mistakes sometimes, but learning from each one. He did not have the raw intelligence of the Norvani, but he had something else. He could see patterns. He could learn from failure. He could adapt. On the third day, they tested his endurance. They put him in a room with gravity twice as strong as Earth. Standing was difficult. Walking was painful. Every step felt like carrying another person on his back. Most species would rest. They would lie down and wait for the test to end. Tiho walked. He walked in circles around the room, forcing his muscles to work. When his legs gave out, he did push-ups. When his arms failed, he simply lay on his back and lifted his legs. The Norvani watched in confusion. Why did he keep moving when there was no need? Why did he push himself when nobody was forcing him? They did not understand humans. They did not know that for millions of years, humans survived not by being the strongest or the fastest. They survived by refusing to quit. They survived by adapting to any environment, any challenge, any threat. They survived by being too stubborn to die. After 3 days, Vila came to see Tiho personally. She found him sitting calmly in his room, stretching muscles that should have been destroyed by the gravity test. He looked up when she entered. "More tests?" he asked. "I have questions," Vila said. She sat across from him, studying his face. "You are not like other humans we have studied. Your body changes to meet each challenge. Your mind learns faster than it should. Why?" Tiho shrugged. "I do not know. I have always been like this. I get sick less than other people. I heal faster. I thought it was normal." "It is not normal, not even for humans." Vila leaned forward. "We have scanned thousands of your species. None of them showed abilities like yours. You are unique." "Lucky me," Tiho said without smiling. Vila was quiet for a moment. "You are angry. You hide it well, but I can see it. You kidnapped me. You are using me for experiments. Should I be happy? We are trying to save our species from extinction. Surely you can understand that." Tiho met her black eyes. "I understand survival, but there are many ways to survive. You chose to take people against their will. You chose to treat us like animals. That was your choice." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Vila stood up. "Tomorrow you will meet the High Council. They will decide what happens next." She paused at the door. "For what it is worth, I hope they choose wisely." After she left, Tiho allowed himself to smile. The commander was not like the others. She had doubts. Doubts could be useful. That night, Tiho heard a sound outside his door. He pretended to be asleep as it opened. A figure crept inside, moving quietly in the darkness. It was not a Norvani. The shape was too small, too human. "Tiho," a voice whispered, "is that you?" He sat up quickly. He knew that voice. Hana. Yoon Hana rushed to his side. She was his oldest friend, a geneticist who worked at a university in Seoul. They had grown up in the same neighborhood. He had not seen her in 2 years, not since she took her research position. "How are you here?" he asked. "They took me too, 3 days ago." Hana's eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady. "I was working late at my lab when the light came. I woke up here." "Why did they keep you? They sent the others back." Hana sat beside him on the bed. "Because of my work, I study genetic diseases. They wanted my knowledge." She looked at him carefully. "They told me about you, about what you can do. Is it true? Can your body really adapt to anything?" "I do not know about anything. But yes, something strange is happening to me." Hana nodded slowly. "They have been making me analyze their genetic data. Tiho, I found something. Something they do not want anyone to know." She spoke quickly, keeping her voice low. The Norvani were dying, that much was true. Their children were born weaker each generation. Their immune systems were failing. Their organs were shutting down earlier and earlier. But it was not a natural disease. "Someone engineered this," Hana said. "The genetic flaw in their DNA is too perfect, too precise. It was designed. Someone wanted the Norvani to go extinct." Tiho felt cold. Who would do that? "I do not know yet. The records are hidden, but I found traces of old files, old research. This plague was created thousands of years ago, and I think—" She stopped, listening. Footsteps in the hallway. You have to go, Tiho said. I will find more, I will learn the truth. Hana squeezed his hand. Stay alive. Whatever happens tomorrow, stay alive. She slipped out of the room just as the footsteps passed. Tiho lay back down, his mind racing. The Norvani were victims of their own kind. Someone had murdered an entire species in slow motion, and now he was trapped in the middle of it all. But he was not helpless. He had Hana, he had his strange abilities, and he had time. The next morning, guards came to take him to the High Council. As they walked through the gleaming corridors, Tiho memorized every turn, every door, every security station. He counted the guards and noted their weapons. He watched how they moved and where they looked. They thought he was walking to judgment. He was walking to war. When he entered the council chamber, a dozen ancient Norvani stared down at him from high seats. Their faces showed no emotion. In the center sat the oldest of them all, a male with skin so pale it was almost white. I am Elder Rin, the old one said. We will decide your fate. Tiho stood straight and looked up at them without fear. Then decide. I am ready for whatever comes. Rin smiled, and there was something cold and hungry in that smile. Something that told Tiho the truth before any words were spoken. These were not saviors trying to save their people. These were predators who had found new prey. The real danger was not the tests or the experiments. The real danger was sitting right in front of him, wearing the mask of wisdom. The High Council debated for 3 hours. Tiho stood in the center of the chamber, listening to every word. Some wanted to begin the breeding program immediately. Others wanted more tests. Elder Rin said little, but his cold eyes never left Tiho. In the end, they gave Vila more time. Continue your research, Rin said. Learn everything about this human. When you are finished, he will serve our purpose. Guards returned Tiho to his room. He did not sleep that night. He sat by the window and watched the stars, thinking about Rin's words. Serve our purpose. Not help us survive. Serve our purpose. There was a difference, and Tiho understood it clearly. Days turned into weeks. The tests continued, but they were different now. Less about breaking him, more about understanding him. Tiho cooperated, letting them take blood samples and run scans. He was learning too, learning their language, learning how the ship worked, learning the patterns of the guards, and learning about Commander Vila. She came to see him often. At first, her visits were official. She asked questions about his biology, his history, his planet. But slowly, the visits became something else. She would stay longer. She would talk about things that had nothing to do with the program. One night, she came to his room late. She looked tired, the light patterns on her skin dimmer than usual. She sat across from him and said nothing for a long time. You seem troubled, Tiho said. I have carried the weight of my people for 200 years, Vila replied. I have watched children die before their first decade. I have seen families end with no one to remember them. I have done everything in my power to stop this extinction. And yet, every year, we are fewer. Tiho studied her face. Behind the cold mask, he saw exhaustion. He saw pain. He saw someone who had been strong for so long that she had forgotten what weakness felt like. Why you, he asked. Why must you carry this burden? Because I am the only one left who can. My family served the Norvani for generations. My mother led the fleet before me, my grandmother before her. They are all gone now. I am the last. She looked at her hands. Sometimes I wonder if my death will be a relief. No more responsibility, no more failure. That is not strength talking, Tiho said quietly. That is exhaustion. Vila's eyes met his. For a moment the mask cracked. He saw something vulnerable beneath it, something almost human. You are strange, she said. I expected to find an animal when I looked at humans, a primitive species good only for genetic material. Instead, I found someone who listens, someone who thinks, someone who does not fear me. Should I fear you? Most species do. The Norvani were once conquerors. We built an empire across 100 worlds. Other races bowed before us. She paused. Now we are dying and they watch with satisfaction. We have no allies, no friends, only enemies waiting for us to disappear. T-Ho considered this. And yet you took humans by force. You treated us as property. How is that different from what your ancestors did? It is not. Vila stood and walked to the window. I told myself it was necessary, that saving my people justified any action. But when I look at you, I wonder if I became the thing I once hated. This was the moment T-Ho had been waiting for. He could see the doubt in her. He could push it, expand it, turn it into something useful. But looking at her standing alone against the stars, he felt something unexpected. He felt sympathy. "There is another way," he said. Vila turned. "What do you mean?" "You want humans to help save your species, but you are going about it wrong. Forcing people creates enemies. If you asked instead, if you offered something in return, you might find willing partners." "The Council would never agree to that. Humans are considered inferior." "The Council is not here right now. You are." T-Ho stood and walked to stand beside her. "What if I agreed to help willingly? What if I worked with your scientists instead of being tested like a laboratory animal?" "Why would you do that?" "Because I have seen your data. Your people are dying and it is not your fault. Somewhere in your history, someone did this to you. You are victims, not villains." He met her eyes. "And because you came here tonight not as a commander but as someone who needed to be heard, that tells me something about who you really are." Vila was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, softer. "If I bring this proposal to the Council, they will reject it. Elder Rin has no interest in treating humans as equals." "Then do not bring it to the Council. Work with me quietly. Let me prove what cooperation can achieve." "You are asking me to betray everything I serve." "I am asking you to save your people in a way that does not destroy mine." The silence stretched between them. Outside the window, a distant planet turned slowly in the void. Finally, Vila nodded. "I will think about it." She left and T-Ho returned to his bed. He had planted a seed. Now he needed to help it grow. Over the following days, Vila changed. She started including T-Ho in scientific discussions rather than just observing him. She asked for his opinions. She treated him not as a specimen but as a partner. The other Norvani noticed. Some approved, most did not. Whispers spread through the ship. The commander was becoming too close to the human. T-Ho also found ways to see Hana. She had made progress in her research. The genetic plague had a creator, and that creator was Norvani. But the records were sealed at the highest level. Only the Council could access them. "There is something they are hiding," Hana said during one of their secret meetings. "Something about why this plague was created. Every time I get close to the answer, I hit a wall." "Keep trying," T-Ho told her. "The truth is the only weapon we have." Then the order came. Vila arrived at T-Ho's room in the middle of the night. Her face was pale. The light patterns on her skin flickered with distress. "The Council has decided," she said. "They are done waiting. Tomorrow they will begin forced extraction of your genetic material. They will take what they need and dispose of the rest." T-Ho felt ice in his stomach. "Dispose." "You know too much. You have seen too much. And Rin—" She stopped, struggling with her words. "Rin does not want partners, he wants resources. He sees your abilities as something to harvest, not something to work with." "What are you saying?" "I am saying that after tomorrow you will be dead, unless we act now." T-Ho stood slowly. "We." Vila looked at him, and in her eyes he saw something he had not seen before: determination. "I have followed orders my entire life. I have done terrible things in the name of duty, but I cannot do this. I cannot kill someone who showed me kindness when he had no reason to." She held out her hand. In it was a small device. "This will disable the locks on your door and your friend's door. There is a shuttle bay on level 12. If you can reach it, you can escape. T-Ho took the device. Come with us. I cannot. If I leave, they will know immediately. I will stay and delay them as long as I can. They will kill you. Perhaps, Vila smiled sadly. Or perhaps I will finally face the consequences of my choices. Either way, at least I will have done one good thing at the end. T-Ho looked at the device in his hand, then at Vila. A week ago, she was his captor. Now she was sacrificing everything to save him. People could change. Even aliens, even enemies. Thank you, he said. Do not thank me yet. Just run. And if you find a way to expose the truth about what the Council has done, do it. My people deserve to know who has been lying to them. She left without another word. T-Ho activated the device. It was time to find Hana and escape. But even as he moved toward the door, his mind was already working on something bigger than escape. He would not just run. He would not just survive. He would make sure the galaxy knew what the Norvani Council had done. He would burn their lies to the ground. The corridors were dark. Emergency lighting cast red shadows on the walls as T-Ho moved through the ship. Vila's device worked perfectly. Every door opened for him. Every security system stayed silent. He found Hana waiting outside her quarters, a bag of data chips clutched to her chest. You got my message, she whispered. We need to move. Shuttle Bay level 12. They ran. T-Ho had memorized the route during his weeks of observation. Left at the junction, down 2 levels, through the maintenance tunnel, avoid the main corridors where guards patrolled. Hana struggled to keep up. She was not used to running, not used to danger, but she did not complain. She simply ran. They were halfway to the shuttle bay when alarms began to scream. They know, Hana gasped. Keep moving. Red lights flashed everywhere now. T-Ho could hear boots pounding on metal floors somewhere behind them. The Norvani were fast. They would catch up soon. He grabbed Hana's arm and pulled her into a storage room. They pressed against the wall as a patrol ran past. When the footsteps faded, they continued. The shuttle bay was just ahead. T-Ho could see the massive doors. But standing in front of those doors were 6 Norvani soldiers, weapons raised. Stop, one of them ordered. By command of Elder Rin, you are under arrest. T-Ho raised his hand slowly. His mind raced through options. 6 soldiers, energy weapons, 20 meters of open space. No cover, the odds were terrible. Then the lights went out. In the darkness, T-Ho heard something strange. The sound of bodies falling. When emergency lights flickered back on, all 6 soldiers were on the ground, unconscious. Standing over them was Commander Vila, a shock weapon in her hand. I told you to run, she said. You said you would stay behind. I changed my mind, she looked at Hana. You must be the geneticist. Come, we have little time. They entered the shuttle bay together. Vila led them to a small transport ship, sleek and fast. As they boarded, Hana pulled out her data chips. Before we leave, you need to see this, she said. Both of you. She inserted a chip into the shuttle's computer. Files began scrolling across the screen. Research reports, scientific data, and something else, something hidden. I finally broke through their security, Hana explained. The genetic plague that is killing the Norvani was created 4,000 years ago. It was designed as a weapon. We know this, Vila said, but who created it? Hana brought up a new file. It was an old recording, the quality poor but the content clear. An ancient Norvani stood before a group of scientists, speaking proudly. Our enemies think they can defeat us with war, the figure said. They are wrong. We will defeat them with biology. This genetic modification will weaken their descendants over generations. By the time they realize what is happening, it will be too late to stop. The recording ended. Silence filled the shuttle. That was Elder 7, Vila said slowly. The founder of the High Council. He has been dead for 3,000 years. Your own leaders created this plague, Hana said. It was meant to destroy your enemies, but something went wrong. It spread to your own population instead. Vila's silver skin turned pale gray. That cannot be true. The Council has spent centuries searching for a cure. They have devoted everything to saving us. No, Hana said gently. They have spent centuries hiding the truth. Look at this. More files appeared. Communications between council members, secret meetings, plans to suppress any research that came too close to the truth. They know, Hana continued. Elder Rin knows. The entire High Council knows. They have always known that they created the plague. They have been covering it up for thousands of years. Why, Tiho asked. Why hide it? Vila answered, her voice hollow. Because if the people knew, they would tear the council apart. The council claims power because they are protecting us, because they are searching for salvation. But if everyone learned that the council created our extinction, she stopped, unable to finish. They would lose everything, Tiho said. Power, status, control. So they buried the truth and let your people die slowly while pretending to search for answers. Vila sank into a seat. 400 years of service. 400 years of following orders, trusting her leaders, believing they were fighting for survival. And it was all a lie. There is more, Hana said quietly. I found records about Tiho, about why his genetic material is so valuable. She brought up new data, scientific analyses of Tiho's DNA. His adaptive genetics are not just compatible with Norvani biology, Hana explained. They could actually cure the plague. His DNA has the ability to repair the genetic damage. If properly integrated, it could save your entire species. Vila looked up. Then we should proceed with the program. We should use his genetics too. You do not understand, Hana interrupted. The Council does not want a cure. A cure would mean the end of their control. A healthy population would not need them. They do not want to breed with Tiho. They want to extract his genetic code, create a limited treatment that only they control, and destroy all evidence of the original plague source. And then kill me, Tiho added, because I know too much. Vila stared at the data on the screen. Everything she believed was crumbling. Her leaders were murderers. Her entire life was built on lies. Tiho knelt beside her. Vila, look at me. She met his eyes. There were tears on her silver cheeks. You are not responsible for what they did, he said. You were a victim too, used and deceived just like everyone else. I should have questioned. I should have looked deeper. You are looking now, that is what matters. He stood up. We have a choice. We can run. We can escape to Earth and forget about all of this, or we can fight. Fight? Hana asked nervously. We are 3 people against an entire fleet. We are 3 people with the truth, Tiho said. The Council's power depends on lies. If we can expose those lies, everything changes. Vila wiped her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was steady again. The ship has a broadcast system. It can send messages to every vessel in the fleet, every Norvani colony in the galaxy. If we can access it, we can show them the truth. Can you get us to the broadcast center? Vila stood up. Something had changed in her expression. The doubt was gone. In its place was cold determination. I can do better than that, she said. I know officers who have questioned the Council for years. I know soldiers who joined the fleet to protect our people, not to serve corrupt leaders. Give me time to contact them. How much time? 1 hour, maybe less. She moved to the shuttle's communication system. I am done following orders. It is time to give some of my own. Tiho watched her work. Behind them, alarms still screamed. Above them, Rin and the Council were hunting. All around them, an entire species was dying from a wound their own leaders had inflicted. But for the first time since he was taken from Earth, Tiho felt something like hope. They were no longer running. They were no longer hiding. They were going to war. The plan was simple but dangerous. Hana would access the broadcast center through maintenance tunnels and prepare the transmission. Vila would coordinate with her loyal officers to secure key sections of the ship, and Tiho would walk straight into the hands of Elder Rin. "This is madness," Hana said. "They will kill you." "They will try," Tiho replied, "but they will not succeed." "How can you be so sure?" Tiho smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Because they have been studying me for weeks. They think they know everything about what I can do. They are wrong." Vila understood. Every test they ran, every sample they took, your body was learning from it, adapting to it, preparing for it. Tiho looked at his hands. They looked normal, but he could feel the changes inside. His muscles were denser now. His reflexes were faster. His senses were sharper. Weeks of exposure to the ship's environment, its gravity, its atmosphere, had transformed him in ways even the Norvani scanners could not detect. "The samples they extracted are useless now," he continued. "My DNA has changed since they took them, and the new code contains something special, a marker that will reveal the true origin of the plague when analyzed. Everything they try to hide will be exposed." Vila shook her head in amazement. "You planned this." "Not planned, hoped. There is a difference." He turned to leave. "Wait for my signal. When you hear it, broadcast everything." He walked out of the shuttle and into the waiting arms of the enemy. Guards surrounded him within minutes. They were not gentle. They forced him to his knees and dragged him through the corridors. Norvani crew members watched in silence as he passed. Some looked satisfied. Others looked troubled. Seeds of doubt were already growing. They brought him to the council chamber. Elder Rin sat in the center seat, his white skin almost glowing in the artificial light. The other council members sat around him like statues, their faces empty of emotion. "The human returns," Rin said. "Did you enjoy your little adventure?" Tiho stood calmly despite the guards holding his arms. "I saw some interesting things, learned some interesting facts." "Yes, Commander Vila has betrayed us. She will be found and executed." Rin leaned forward. "But you, primitive creature, are still useful. We will extract what we need from you, and then you will be disposed of." "You sound very confident for someone whose entire world is about to collapse." Something flickered in Rin's ancient eyes. "What are you talking about?" "I know the truth, Elder. I know the Council created the plague that is killing your people. I know you have been hiding it for thousands of years. I know you do not want a cure because a healthy population would not need you anymore." The chamber went silent. Other council members exchanged nervous glances. Rin's expression did not change, but his hands gripped the arms of his chair. "Lies," he said. "Desperate lies from a desperate animal." "Then why are your colleagues looking so worried?" Rin stood slowly. He was old, but he moved with the fluid grace of all Norvani. He walked down from his platform until he stood directly in front of Tiho. "You think you are clever," he said softly. "You think your little words can threaten us, but you are just one human, weak, primitive, alone." Tiho looked up at him without fear. "You scanned me a dozen times. Did you ever wonder why my DNA keeps changing?" Rin hesitated. It was a tiny pause, barely noticeable, but Tiho saw it. "Your genetics are unstable," Rin said. "A mutation, nothing more." "My genetics are reactive. Every test you ran, every sample you took, my body learned from it, adapted to it. The genetic material you extracted is worthless now, worse than worthless. It has been encoded with the truth about the plague's origin. Anyone who analyzes it will see what you have been hiding." Rin's face twisted with anger. "You are bluffing." At that moment, every screen in the chamber flickered. The lights of communication systems blinked across the room. Hana had reached the broadcast center. Tiho asked. The screens came alive. Every ship in the fleet, every colony across Norvani space began receiving the same transmission. Hana's voice filled the chamber, calm and clear, presenting the evidence. The ancient recordings, the secret files, the truth about how the Council had murdered their own species to gain power. Chaos erupted. Council members shouted at each other. Guards ran to their stations, unsure what to do. The carefully maintained order of thousands of years was crumbling in seconds. Rin grabbed a weapon from a nearby guard and pointed it at Tiho's head. "You have destroyed everything, you primitive, worthless creature." He swung the weapon at Tiho's skull. But Tiho was no longer where he had been. Weeks of living in high gravity had transformed his muscles. Weeks of breathing alien air had expanded his lungs. Weeks of tests and challenges had pushed his adaptive genetics to their limit. He was not the same human who had been kidnapped from that laboratory in Busan. He caught Rin's arm mid-swing. The old alien's eyes went wide with shock. No human should be able to move that fast. "You spent centuries thinking humans were beneath you," Tiho said quietly. "That we were simple, primitive. You never stopped to ask what primitive species have to do in order to survive." He twisted the weapon from Rin's grip and threw it aside. "We fight, we adapt, we never ever give up." Guards rushed forward, but they were met by other soldiers, Vila's loyalists, officers who had heard the broadcast and chose to side with the truth. Fighting broke out across the chamber, across the ship, across the fleet. Rin tried to run. Tiho let him go. There was nowhere left to hide. The battle was over within hours. The council was overthrown. Rin was captured trying to escape in a private shuttle. The evidence was everywhere now, impossible to suppress. The Norvani people finally knew the truth about their leaders. In the aftermath, Vila took temporary command of the fleet. It was not a position she wanted, but it was one she accepted. Someone needed to guide her people through the chaos. Tiho found her standing on the observation deck, watching repair crews work on damaged ships. She looked tired but lighter somehow. The weight of lies was no longer on her shoulders. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we rebuild. We share the cure your genetics can provide, not as a tool of control but freely. We try to become the species we should have been." "And the Council, Rin? They will face justice, real justice decided by the people they betrayed." She turned to look at him. "You could stay, help us rebuild. You would be honored among our people." Tiho shook his head. "I have a planet to go back to, people who are probably wondering where I disappeared to." The marine biologist returns to study his fish. "Something like that," he smiled, "but maybe with a slightly broader perspective now." Vila extended her hand in the human manner. Tiho had taught her the gesture weeks ago. "Then let there be friendship between our peoples, true friendship, built on respect, not force." Tiho took her hand. "I would like that." 2 weeks later, Tiho stood on a beach in Busan. The waves crashed against the rocks just like they had on the night everything changed. Hana stood beside him, watching the sunset. "So what do we do now?" she asked. "You go back to your research, I go back to mine." "That seems almost boring after everything that happened." Tiho laughed. "I think I have had enough excitement for a lifetime." A shuttle descended through the clouds. Not an attack this time, but a diplomatic visit. Vila had come to Earth for the first signing of the Human-Norvani Cooperation Treaty. It was the beginning of something new. 2 species, once strangers, now partners. Hana went to meet the delegation. Tiho stayed on the beach for a moment longer, looking out at the ocean. Footsteps approached. Vila stopped beside him. "You could have ruled them," she said. "With what you have become, with what you did, you could have demanded power, demanded worship. Why did you not?" Tiho considered the question. "That is not what humans do." "Then what do humans do?" He picked up a shell from the sand and turned it over in his hands. It was ordinary, simple, one of billions. "We survive," he said. "We adapt, and when we find others struggling, we lift them up with us." Vila looked at the ocean. It was vast and unknowable, teeming with life she could not see, so different from the empty spaces between stars. Perhaps, she said quietly, you were never ordinary at all. Tiho threw the shell into the waves. It disappeared into the water, becoming part of something larger. Maybe none of us are, he replied. We just need the right moment to prove it. They walked up the beach together, toward the waiting delegation, toward a future neither could have imagined. Behind them, the sun set over the ocean. A new day was coming, and for the first time in a long time, both their peoples had something to hope for.